Okay, away we go. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We have a quorum, and we are going to begin the Tax-Exempt Review Committee for today. And agenda item number 1 is Renaissance Zone and Downtown Incentive Boundary Map. And Jim is going to work us through this. So, Jim, will you begin?
At your last meeting, we discussed the specific boundary. We were looking at that commercial development that was northeast of University and 7th Avenue North, and whether or not that should be eligible for the remodeling exemption that would, under the current policy, they'd only be eligible for a 3-year exemption, and it would not include any of the expansion. If you're within the downtown and you have a commercial expansion like this, you're eligible for a 5-year remodeling exemption, as well as the value of the addition. And I think this seems like a good project, and so what we looked at was changing this boundary. And so what this new map, it does that, but I also went and looked at really the entire edge of the downtown. This policy will apply not only to the remodeling exemption, but it would also apply to when we provide the payment in lieu of taxes incentive for new apartment buildings in the downtown. And so what I did was I looked at kind of just outside the boundary and tried to see where it would be appropriate to change it. There are some additional areas I added. If you look at the first map and the second map, those areas that are added are all generally already they're not owner occupied. It's all zoned for apartments, and so it really fits more in a downtown character, or at least high density residential immediately adjacent to the downtown. So I kind of looked at each individual parcel and kind of came up with this new map. You'll see most of the changes are on the south side, where we push out maybe up to a block, but generally it's just about half a block from the river over to what would be just beyond University. It'd be 14th or 15th Street. And then as you look on west of the University, the Renaissance Zone had already pushed over a couple blocks, and so again, try to follow generally that line. If areas that were more owner-occupied single-family homes, I did not include them in the map, since they seem to be, that seems like it's more part of the neighborhood. When you look around Sanford, for instance, we didn't really change the map much on that north or east edge, since that was, I think we'd already kind of done a pretty good job on lining up that boundary. We did add in there's a proposed apartment building in an area that's already zoned downtown mixed use, adjacent to the railroad tracks, or just north of the railroad tracks, over by the river. So again, the areas that are added, they're generally zone multifamily, they're generally used for multifamily or commercial. So the big change under the pilot policy is they would now be eligible to apply for that up to 15-year property tax exemption for new apartments, not remodeling, but for any new apartments developed in these areas that are zone multifamily. As far as the remodeling exemption, for existing apartments, they're already eligible for the 5-year remodeling, and so that really doesn't change. However, the 2 changes for commercial buildings, that being that they could now be eligible for a 5-year remodeling instead of just 3, and additions in addition to that remodeling. In order to be eligible, the buildings have to be 25 years old, so you can't build the building this year and then apply for remodeling expansion next year. So,
Can I interrupt you real quick, Jim? So that's on page 8. When you talk about the specific numbers of what you're talking about, is that correct? Where it talks about the different years and things like that, just so people can use that for a reference.
Yeah, that's just highlighted. I don't think there's any text change there, but you can kind of see how that would apply. So if this particular business, you know, because it's in the downtown, would only be the remodeling exemption now, because it's over 25 years old, they'd be eligible for the remodeling and the addition in this downtown incentive area.
And basically, the only things I included for changes in the policy is we used to refer to it as a central business district, basically calling it the downtown incentive area now.
And can I ask you one more question, Jim? So obviously now there's a downtown neighborhood association and things like, I think it would be a good idea to at some point meet with them and just so they know the definitions and know what's going on, and maybe we already have, but I think that would be a good idea too. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I have not met with the Downtown Neighborhood Association or the Downtown Community Partnership on this. We can certainly do that, and perhaps I could do that ahead of putting it on City Commission agenda, just in case there's any concerns where we might want to bring it back to you.
And I don't know if we need a motion on that, but I just think that would be a good thing to do, just to ahead of time meet, just so it's a heads up so they know what's going on. I think would be a good thing. And the only other thing is if there's any other neighborhoods, like the Roosevelt maybe comes to mind, or any of the other ones that this touches, if we could at least let them know what's going on so they have opportunity to talk. And I hate to give you more work to do, but I just think it's better to do that at a time.
Yeah, we could talk to that neighborhood coalition. I don't know if they're still regularly meeting, but certainly offer to meet with both you know, Hawthorne and Roosevelt if they felt it was appropriate.
I don't know if everybody else agrees with that, but I think that would be a good thing. And I apologize, it seems like I'm giving you another list of work to do, but the other thing is we've talked about the opportunity zones, and I know it's a separate issue, but just to have that map included at some point, I think it would be a good additional information. And I know it's a separate thing, but I think it would be that's good information to have too for people.
Yeah, it is, and most of the downtown is in the opportunity zone. Or the opportunity zone boundary, I believe, is on First Avenue South, so a lot of that area, the southern part of this map would not be in the opportunity zone.
And so, like I said, you don't want to have too many maps, but I do think it's good information. A lot of people aren't aware, and it's a complicated program, I know that, but I just think to show all the things, the information for people, I think it'd be good to have, especially when we're doing all these at the same time.
Yeah, I think it's a good program. There's 3 opportunity funds that I'm aware of that are active in the community right now. And actually this morning I met with some EDC staff from a representative from represents an investor who's from outside the area who's looking at potential investments in, you know, Midwest cities like, you know, Fargo, Sioux Falls, Rapid City, and kind of went on a tour and showed them potential investment areas. So it's a program that has gotten a lot of attention from investors.
And just one more thing, they're all complementary too. All these things all kind of go together. So I obviously, I think if we try to get too many on one map, it gets to be too much stuff. But I do think it would be good to have, because they all, I think with these investors that are looking at things, these are all, you combine them all. You don't just look at one or the other. So I don't know if that makes sense to everybody, but
It does. Good idea.
All right, sorry to interrupt you, and if there's any other comments or questions, otherwise continue. I didn't mean to.
I really didn't have anything else, so I guess the recommendation is to kind of follow Ben's recommendation, changing that wording to this downtown incentive boundary, just so you see on the policy what those changes would be. Again, the highlighted ones, I don't think that's, other than the name change on page 8 and 10, and then just updating, I guess, some of our membership information.
So Ben, if you don't mind me asking, so then on page 8, basically, it's just, it isn't changing any programs, it's just changing the wording.
Just the wording of the downtown boundary.
Right. So unless anybody has any questions, we'll accept a motion for that.
I'll make a motion to approve as submitted.
We have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Motion carries. So can you just tell me what will be the next steps for this, Ben?
Well, I'm just wondering when we want this to go to commission. Did you want to wait to talk to those neighborhoods before?
I think we'll wait and try to visit with them in January and try to get it to city commission first meeting in February.
And I believe our next tax review in January, the planning will present the changes of the Renaissance boundary to this committee. They haven't been approved yet, but they want to bring it to us. When they met with us last time, we had asked them we'd like it back, so.
Very good. That sounds great. Any other comments or questions? Otherwise, we will adjourn. Thank everybody. Have a Merry Christmas. Hopefully you get a chance to go someplace warm, but for sure, be with your families and have a great holiday season. We are adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you.